This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, washed up. A humpback whale that was stranded in the Stewiacke River is found dead on a sandbar. Visa woes. How some people in Nova Scotia are risking scams to get faster access to the United States. And late to the game. There's not much time left on the clock for a Little League ball field in Sydney.
Increasing clouds with a chance of showers edging in for southern areas on Friday. We're also going to be seeing an increase in the humidity through Friday and certainly into the weekend. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. A beached humpback whale attracted a steady flow of onlookers along Highway 102 today. Now researchers are trying to find out more about what happened to the whale in the Stewiacke River. The CBC's Luke Ettinger went to see the whale this morning.
This humpback whale in Stewiacke was a sight to see. It is believed to be the same animal spotted on Canada Day upstream in the Shubenacadie River. Local rafters kept the animal cool until it could swim away. It has likely been in the river since, and this morning the animal was spotted dead on a sandbar.
It is a bit odd for humpback whales to even be that far in the back of the Bay of Fundy to then go up the river, but it definitely has happened in the past of having even, smaller whales and dolphins and whatnot go up rivers.
Where this whale washed up on Thursday morning is in full view of Highway 102. RCMP have set up pylons and are asking the public to not stop on the 100 Series highway. And the town of Stewiacke has also asked folks to stay off the mudflats when the water's lower. Still, folks are coming here to the marsh trails, and they can't resist getting a glimpse of something they haven't seen before.
It's kind of like I said, a morbid curiosity. I've personally never ever seen one before, so it's kind of cool.
I feel like it is a little bit sad, but mostly I also think it's kind of cool. It's not something that you see every day kind of here in Stewiacke, especially this far inland, so we definitely wanted to come see it.
And some managed to get even closer with the help of technology.
You can see some of the nice details, the whale and kind of like the underbelly. I haven't really looked too much into it, but it's pretty interesting footage.
Marine Animal Response is working on a plan to remove the whale in order to conduct a necropsy to learn how it died. But that will be at the mercy of the tidal river.
The problem is this river. It's a very difficult river to have access to. There's not a lot of roads down to it. And then it's very muddy, which means we can't actually work on that surface at all because it's just too dangerous for our people.
This is the second whale to make headlines this summer. In June, a minke whale was helped by rafters after getting stuck in the Shubenacadie River. Luke Ettinger, CBC News, Stewiacke.
I'll talk to Tanya Wimmer, the executive director of the Marine Animal Response Society, about some of the reasons why this whale might have run into trouble. That's our Newsmaker interview just after 6:30. A religious group is claiming a policy by the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Nova Scotia will turn doctors away from the province. But the college and a bioethics expert say claims from this group about medical assistance in death or MAID are not only untrue, but they're irresponsible. Josh Hoffman has more.
The Christian Medical and Dental Association of Canada held a virtual press conference today. The group is calling on Nova Scotia's College of Physicians and Surgeons to change its standard on conscientious objection. That's when a physician is unable or unwilling to provide a treatment because it goes against their personal, ethical, or religious beliefs. If doctors are unwilling to perform a procedure like MAID, they have to refer their patient to a doctor who would, or they'll be disciplined. The group says if things don't change, the doctor shortage in this province will get worse, but they didn't give any concrete evidence.
41 Nova Scotia doctors have made written statements to our lawyer that they will not be able to follow the provisions of the new policy brought in by the college. These 41 physicians are, as of now, at risk of a complaint, investigation, and a disciplinary process that could result in the loss of their license to practice in Nova Scotia.
This policy says that if I will not provide that referral and send a letter asking one of my colleagues to kill my patients, that I am a bad doctor, that I need to be disciplined, that I may need my license revoked.
The College of Physicians and Surgeons of Nova Scotia took issue with several comments made at the press conference.
I thought it was remarkably inflammatory to describe making a referral for medical assistance in dying as being as comparing it to a requisition for a chest X-ray, or making the point that you were asking another physician to kill your patient. Not the case at all.
Grant says the policy isn't even new. They've just consolidated several existing policies into this updated standard to better help physicians. He says not only has this standard been around for a while, they haven't heard from any doctors complaining about it.
In fact, I think if the college were to listen to the CMDA on these issues, you would see a rebound on the other side. And in fact, you'd probably see many more physicians outraged at having to change medical practice to accommodate the CMDA's requests. And so truly on a physician shortage question, I don't think it's going to be a significant issue and one that could be worse in the other direction. That said, this is an important ethical issue, one that deserves our attention and does deserve conversation.
Dr. Holland, who does perform the procedure MAID, says he greatly respects the physicians expressing the concerns, but he says the language and the approach by the Christian Medical and Dental Association isn't in the best interest of anyone involved. Josh Hoffman, CBC News, Halifax.
Still with healthcare, the IWK Health Centre is planning to open a new Dartmouth location this fall for its mental health and addictions programs. The Children's Hospital will be leasing space at what used to be a Winners store in Micmac Mall.
It makes sense that we locate clinics across all our HRMs so that families will not have to come downtown to the IWK Health Centre to look for parking, but actually the Micmac Mall location is near a bus station. It's very accessible, lots of parking, and it's a real opportunity for us to create a therapeutic and trauma-informed space in a new way.
Brennan says about 40 people will move to the site once the renovations are finished. They include psychologists, social workers, occupational therapists, youth care workers, and psychiatrists. Some staff will be moved from existing clinics in Halifax, Bedford, Sackville, and Dartmouth. The hospital will also be hiring extra staff. Ryan Snoddon with us now on another nice day in Nova Scotia. Not too many complaints out there tonight, Ryan.
No, definitely not. Clouding up a little bit, but overall fine day yet again. Thanks so much, Tom. As we look at those highs today, warmest temps as expected were across the north. Onshore southerly flow keeping temperatures high teens, low 20s along the coastlines, especially if your feet were in the water. Looking at a couple of showers PEI, and those may clip in through the Cape Breton region later this evening into the overnight. Also going to be watching for a shower to graze into southwestern parts of Nova Scotia thanks to some of these showers you're seeing here across the northeast of the U.S. And those will graze, again, the southwestern areas, not only tonight but into tomorrow. This is the system we're going to be watching over the next couple of days in through the Great Lakes. Not only going to be bringing an increase in some shower chances for us, but look at the mugginess here. Those dew points are in the high teens, low 20s. That is very muggy air, and that is on its way for us. Creeping in a little bit tomorrow, we'll start to feel it, no question. Temperatures very pleasant yet again. Most of us are going to be into the mid to high 20s, but we will see again in those onshore winds, temperatures closer to the high teens, low 20s. Shower chances again along that Atlantic coastline. Now, as we move into the weekend, what we're going to be watching is as that system approaches and the moisture increases in the air, we're going to be looking at the potential for showers firing up and the risk for some downpours as well. Risk of some rumbles of thunder is in here as well with these heavier downpours and the tropical moisture in place. That's going to be the case not only for Saturday, but also for Saturday night and into Sunday. It does look like we should see some breaks where it won't be downpouring, of course. It's going to be hit and miss with these scattered showers. And it does look like as we move into the later stages of Sunday, this will kind of dry out as that front moves off to the east. But this will be one we're going to have to watch in detail over the next few days. The big thing, Tom, Mother Nature, again, cranking that humidity up. So get the AC and the fan ready.
Get ready for that. Okay, Ryan, thank you so much for that. We'll talk a little later. Well, summer is a busy travel season for many, but while Canadian citizens are used to being able to zip back and forth across the U.S. border, it's not that simple for everybody. Thousands of people who live in Canada require a visa to enter the U.S., and some of those travelers are risking scams, paying hundreds of dollars to try to get faster U.S. visa access. Shayna Luck has that story.
So I check it every day and every time. Nathan Chen is trying to get an appointment at a U.S. consulate. He's an international student and wants to visit the States, but he needs a visa. Many people are waiting up to 2 years for an appointment. The earliest Chen could find is in 2025.
So you're planning to pay one of these ads today?
Yeah, I want to try it.
The wait times have generated an online industry that claims to help people jump the queue. It's easy to find online advertisers promising to get people faster appointments. That was tempting for Chen.
I want to know what was happened and what it will be if I pay that service.
He invited CBC News to watch the transaction, which cost more than he was expecting at $300 Canadian.
Oh my God.
Once Chen paid the money, he had to hand over his U.S. account information, allowing a third party to rebook him if earlier appointments become available. This is an issue around the world, according to researchers in Germany who've labeled it scalping.
Everywhere, whenever you have a big over-demand for these public services, scalpers find a way to kind of generate profits for it.
But in the past year, the U.S. State Department has heard from people in Canada who did what Chen did and lost their money and their accounts.
That's when we typically hear about it, when the applicant realizes that they no longer have access to their account, that the scammer has changed the password, and so then they're stuck.
When we asked, the advertiser said they've rebooked a few thousand appointments in Canada this year, but they wouldn't reveal more details. Chen found an earlier appointment himself with the help of a friend. And after complaining to the website that hosted the ad, he got his money back. Shayna Luck, CBC News, Halifax.
The first voyage of a new Marine Atlantic ferry between Newfoundland and Labrador and Cape Breton has been pushed back 3 times this summer. Marine Atlantic has been rebooking people on sailings to and from Port of Basque, but that means no passengers have arrived at the Port of Argentia. The new ferry, called the Alisuinu, was supposed to start taking passengers from North Sydney to Argentia in mid-June. The first crossings have been delayed because of mechanical issues. The lack of tourists is leaving the neighboring town of Placentia frustrated and worried for its future.
You know, people are just coming out of the COVID, getting over everything that's after happening, and now right back into a full season of the tourism season lost. Roughly around 33% of the business that would be actually flowing into the doors is now not coming.
Pearson says he's heard some tourists have been canceling their trips to Newfoundland. He wants Marine Atlantic to come up with a backup plan. A former leader of the Nova Scotia NDP will not be seeking re-election. Gary Burrell, the MLA for Halifax-Chebucto, has announced he will retire from politics at the end of his term. Burrell is well known for using colorful turns of phrase during debates. He once referred to a budget as a dumpster full of disappointment. He also described government as a woodpile full of weasels when it comes to openness. Burrell has been an MLA for almost 12 years.
I really do think it's true that there's a time for everybody's work in this field, and as I well know as a minister in congregations, one of your responsibilities when you're in a position of leadership or in an elected position is to discern when that time is, and that's your responsibility alone. I think this is the time that we should look to have somebody new in Halifax-Chebucto.
Burrell is expected to be the only sitting NDP member not to run again. Time is running out for a group of residents in Sydney hoping to secure funding for a Little League-sanctioned ball field. The CBRM and Jay's Care have committed money to the project, but the provincial and federal governments have not yet agreed to play ball. The CBC's Kyle Moore has the story.
Practice is underway for these 10-year-old ball players in Sydney. Games have been cancelled, and they can't use the entire field because of a huge puddle on the infield. It's a problem that has plagued the association for days every time it rains.
Everything's always getting cancelled because of the puddle and the rain and stuff, so it's always getting cancelled and it sucks.
The Bertie McNeil Memorial Field has seen better days. There are plans to transform the area into a Little League sanctioned field with proper dimensions, a turf playing surface, and drainage. Phase 1 of the project would cost more than $782,000.
Ideally, it's a field that is safe, it's inclusive, and it has the proper dimensions for a Little League. Right now, we can't host any games, we can't host tournaments.
Alana McLeod says the municipality has committed $200,000 to the project, and the group has been awarded $150,000 from Jay's Care. But there are conditions before the money can be used.
We're in talks right now with the province and with the feds. So it's getting to the point where we need a commitment before we actually lose the Jay's Care, because we have to have that commitment from them in order to access our Jay's Care grant.
Enrollment in Sydney is growing. More than 600 kids are registered to play ball. That includes a girls' division. George Long has been coaching in Sydney for 20 years.
It's a little disheartening at times because I've been all over Canada and with Little League Nationals, things like that. And even locally, Bridgewater has great two fields. Amherst has great fields. So it's not just Canadian-wide. It's also here in the maritime areas and in Nova Scotia. We can put good fields together. We just gotta need some attention, basically. We need the money.
Long says his dream is to host a national tournament in Sydney in 2031.
These kids do not forget these memories that they build. They're 12 years old. It's so impressionable on them.
An application for funding is currently under review by the province. Kyle Moore, CBC News, Sydney.
It was a big day for the Souls Harbor Rescue Mission, the launch of the Souls Mobile, a retired ambulance that's been outfitted to go on the road and serve people living in encampments throughout the Halifax Regional Municipality. The CBC's Claire McKenzie dropped by.
It feels great to just have this dream be realized today, and we're launching the mobile mission, and we love to call it the Souls Mobile. It's like a little mini mission on wheels, but we definitely have a different flair than our drop-in centers.
And so what can you do with this?
So what we can do with this is go out to people that can't reach service providers or our drop-in centers throughout HRM. When I asked them to perhaps map a route, we thought we would just at least start with the encampments. They actually found 10 encampments and 89 people living in tents. And so with that, we are able to roll on to them and offer them our services.
We have care packages made up to give to people.
The mobile unit is equipped with a few lunches, hygiene items, we've got clothing, boots, we've got snacks, and of course first aid kits, water, especially in the summer. And then of course what we want to do is just to be able to, not regularly, but on an emergency basis, transport people from one place to another.
My name is Miro Rack, and I'm one of the van guys on the Souls Mobile. I help drive and meet with people out on the street.
So you've already been on the road with the rig. What's that experience been like?
It's been actually quite refreshing. The fact is that there's lots of people that we meet and encounter, and some as just an private resident, I'd be driving around and seeing people panhandle. So now it's a chance to actually meet those people one-on-one.
Why did you want to do this kind of work?
The fact is that homelessness is and people being out on the street is a growing issue, and so being part of the solution, it just feels gratifying. I think it gives me a sense that there is a possibility of change.
And so you've been meeting with people, and what's the feedback been like from them?
On Wednesday this week, we had heard about a little encampment. There's a couple tents down in the north end of Halifax, and as we drove up, one of the individuals from the encampment ran out and said, "Souls Harbor, I've been waiting for you." So I think we've had that response 2 or 3 times, so that's been encouraging. Other people are just, I think, grateful just that we're actually engaging in a conversation with them. So by and large, it's been just positive.
This is a big dream being realized today. What's next?
Well, I would love to see this roll out like 24/7, 7 days a week. And then after that, just to increase our fleet.
Coming up, assessing the damage. Recovery efforts are underway in Jamaica after Hurricane Beryl pummeled the island. And simulating climate change, a new tool shows the impacts on coastal Prince Edward Island. Your weather forecast, and Ryan Snoddon right around the corner. The full weather forecast. He's back here with us in just a few minutes. All right, we're just chatting during the break there, Ryan and I, that, another beautiful summer day in Nova Scotia, another weekday.
Yeah.
Looking at the possibility of another weekend with some more moisture. It's becoming a bit of a trend here, isn't it?
It's definitely a trend. Since early June, we cannot thread the needle and get definitely not 2 nice days. And not to say that it can't be nice when there's some showers in the mix, but dry on the weekend has been a tough thing to get, and it's not gonna happen again for this weekend. We've got shower chances both days. Let's have a look at the beautiful shot out right now in Truro. It has clouded up. We are looking at 25 degrees, sun and cloud there. Beautiful evening in Truro along. That is the Fundy Discovery site, and as we look at the temperatures, right around 24, 25 degrees in Truro. It has been cooler along the Atlantic coastline today with that onshore southerly flow, which has been more pronounced. Nice day, though, overall across the province, and you can see those dew point values nice and low. So we've been looking at that low moisture, low humidity. That is really, more than anything, what is going to prompt the change in the forecast over the next few days. And with that muggier air, that more tropical air coming in from the south, we're just going to be looking at more of this type of an air mass where we're going to be seeing these pockets of showers and, breaks in between, no doubt, but this is the air mass that's on its way for us. And so we'll be watching for that. And you can see those dew points, high teens, low 20s. That is where it starts to really feel muggy and oppressive. And that's really going to be the case more so Saturday into Sunday. We'll start to notice it creeping up for tomorrow. Humidex values off to our south and west, mid-30s at the very least, a 42 muggy feel in DC right now. So for tonight, we are looking at a chance for showers. Little band coming across PEI right now will clip in through Cape Breton overnight, and also looking at a risk in through the southwest of Nova Scotia. And we'll show you here on the projection with the hour by hour. Things will be relatively quiet through this evening. And then as we move into to the overnight and tomorrow morning, there are the chances for showers. Looks like they will stay south of Kentville, but we are looking at the risk, I think, Halifax back towards Kedgie, Digby County, down towards the south and west. Can't rule it out an isolated spit here, Kentville up towards Truro and Sheet Harbor, but for the most part, it is going to be in through the south and west. And that risk will extend into tomorrow evening, where we will see a very isolated spit of a shower possible, even up towards the eastern parts of the mainland. Cape Breton, a fine day tomorrow. Winds from the southwest, so you can see in green here, those temperatures cooler Richmond County, certainly into Guysborough, and then our warmest temps are going to be inland and across the northern parts of Cape Breton. We'll be back into the high 20s for the north shore tomorrow, and with that southwest wind, nice day overall. Temperatures are going to be a little cooler along the Atlantic coastline, but we'll range from 22 to 25 and through the metro area, and then back into the valley will be our warmer temperatures, and we are looking at, again, those onshore temperatures keeping cooler along the Atlantic coastline, and the warmest temperatures in through the valley. Now, as we look at Saturday, as I said earlier, we've got the scattered shower possibilities and some sun in the mix as well. It did look earlier, the last couple of days, like New Brunswick was going to kind of bear the brunt of the moisture on Saturday. Now it looks like those pockets of showers could creep in pretty much all across the Maritimes Saturday, and especially later Saturday and into early Sunday. But as this front kind of stalls out just to our north, and we're going to be seeing these pulses of moisture coming in, forecast models have a tough time nailing down the timing of exactly when we're going to be seeing these pulses. But the big thing to keep in mind is that when they do come in, the showers are going to come down. It's a tropical air mass, and so we'll see the high potential for some downpours and the risk of some rumbles of thunder. So if you're going to be outside this weekend, make sure you are prepared for the possibility of some of those downpours coming down. And it looks like it's still pretty good consensus, like Saturday night into early Sunday, we'll likely see a wave coming through, and then things kind of easing into the later stages of Sunday, becoming more isolated with those shower chances. And look at the muggy meter just climbing like a mountain through Saturday, Sunday, really peaking Sunday into Monday as it gets truly tropical. But again, it will feel muggy right through the weekend. And not only with those very muggy temperatures, Tom, Monday, Tuesday is going to be high temperatures as well. So we've got the combo. So Monday, Tuesday could be a heat advisory territory.
Some big numbers on the board there for sure. Okay, Ryan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The weather update is brought to you by Tourism Gaspésie. Plan your stay in Gaspésie at tourismgaspésie.com and enjoy extraordinary moments.
A tool that simulates sea level rise and coastal erosion on PEI is giving islanders a glimpse into what the future could look like. The UPEI Climate Lab is taking the simulator across the island for people to use themselves. And for some, the future doesn't look good. Nancy Russell reports.
Are they vulnerable because it's low-lying as well?
This is Clive. With a few clicks on the game controller, Adam Fennick can make sea level rise and fall, putting some communities and homes underwater.
Well, I have to be very careful because it's a very realistic visualization and people take it to heart. I've had people react very emotionally to seeing their houses swamped with water, as you can imagine.
This is a new updated version of Clive. The original was created in 2013 at the suggestion of some of Fennick's students as a way to show what coastal erosion would look like in decades to come.
And I was hit in the back of the head by gasps from the audience. And I thought, oh, wow, we're really onto something here. This visualization is really effective. I've had people actually crying as a result. So I'm very careful now, a lot more sensitive to people's emotions.
The new Clive uses the latest imagery provided by the provincial government and can zoom in on any location, including areas vulnerable to sea level rise and coastal flooding.
My main message is, of course, don't build so darn close to the shoreline. I'm seduced by the ocean, so I'd love to live right on the coast. But it's not a realistic option anymore on Prince Edward Island under climate change in many places.
This was the first public presentation of the new Clive, with a chance for residents to ask about their properties, including Nora Scales, who remembers the first version of Clive. The new version had some bad news for her summer house on the shoreline.
The flooding is more imminent, it's going to happen more quickly, it's more drastic. In 75 years, my house will be underwater.
Scales describes seeing the coastal flooding as scary, but also inevitable.
Climate change is a fact of life, and those of us with properties on the water have to be sensitive to it. Would I buy another waterfront property? Probably not.
Adam Fennick says Clive can show the future, but the lessons of climate change are also here in the present.
Fiona acted like a big great white shark taking huge bites out of our province. Certain places lost 15 meters in that one storm. 15 meters, think about that. Clive is the virtual reality. Fiona is the reality.
Nancy Russell, CBC News, Charlottetown.
Up next, I'll talk with Tanya Wimmer of the Marine Animal Response Society about some of the questions surrounding that humpback whale that died in the Stewiacke River. That's our Newsmaker. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Nova Scotia News. Members of the Marine Animal Response Society have been on the scene of a young humpback whale that swam up the Stewiacke River this week. The whale has died, and the carcass of the whale is now stranded in deep mud. Tanya Wimmer is Executive Director of the Marine Animal Response Society, or MARS. We had heard that this whale had been freed at one point. What happened?
Yes, so we, on Canada Day, actually, late in the afternoon, we got a report from several concerned citizens that they saw something lying in the middle of the Shubenacadie River. And very thankfully, we were able to work with our colleagues at the Fundy Tidal Board Adventures, who are on the water anyway, and they went and had a look. And when we got the photos, we were a bit astonished that it actually was a humpback whale lying on one of the sandbars, and it was still alive at that point.
Why do you think the whale would have come up the river in the first place? I mean, how unusual is it?
I mean, it is definitely not their usual habitat. Usually they most definitely are out in, the open ocean and bays and harbors and stuff. It does happen from time to time. I mean, most of the time that we've seen this in the past, it's usually because fish are running in the whether it's Gaspereau or something else, that the whale follows them into the river, because of course this is, also what they eat. And sometimes they just get caught out. We're not sure that that's the case in this situation, but because it is a bit odd for humpback whales to even be that far in the back of the Bay of Fundy to then go up the river. But it definitely has happened in the past of having even, smaller whales and dolphins and whatnot go up rivers.
I gather there was a minke whale spotted recently as well.
Yes, but just almost a month ago now, there was it's almost the same spot where a minke whale was spotted again by the colleagues that are there working on the tidal bores with their passengers. They came across the minke whale that was up on one of the sandbars, and in both cases, these are fairly large animals, and the mud is a bit tricky to work in, and so it was very the decision with both was to see just when the tide came back in if the animal would get refloated and move off, and I mean in both cases, for both the minke whale about a month ago and the first encounter with this guy on Canada Day, that's what happened.
And in the case of the humpback whale, I mean, was the animal so stressed that it ultimately died, or is there any indication that it was struggling before it was spotted on Canada Day?
Well, I mean, that's the question really, is how long it had been stranded even before the folks first initially reported it to us, which was only around 3:30 in the afternoon. So it was later in the day when the tide was already partially down. So we're not quite sure how long it was stuck there. Our responders did go out and were able to be taken out by the river rafters to at least get there and try to keep the animal cool until the tide came up. And when it first stranded in that situation and then the tide came up, it did have quite a bit of energy and seemingly swam away. The unfortunate scenario is that the next morning when the tide was back down, the river rafter folks wonderfully went and checked again, and the animal was there again on the sandbar, still alive, but seemingly much weaker. The situation for these whales are just they're such big animals. The ocean is the reason they can get to be so big, because they don't have to deal with gravity like we do on land. And so once they're on land, though, all that weight is sort of pushing down on them, and can cause an awful lot of stress to their bodies. And often that's usually what they succumb from.
And so what happens now? Will it be possible to remove the humpback whale and perform a necropsy?
That's what we were really hoping for. I mean, and actually after the animal passed later in the day on the 2nd, that was immediately what we started having discussions with both Fisheries and Oceans Canada and also with the province to try to figure out if there's any way to get the animal out of the river and to do exactly that, to try to do a necropsy, figure out if there's any underlying conditions or if the animal was healthy and feeding. And the problem is this river. It's a very difficult river to have access to. There's not a lot of roads down to it. And then it's very muddy, which means we can't actually work on that surface at all, because it's just too dangerous for our people and to have the heavy equipment we need. And so the animal's been sort of drifting much further down the river. It's now out of the Shubenacadie River and into the Stewiacke River, down by Stewiacke itself. And so that's where it has appeared this morning, and obviously has been causing a lot of concern, but also an awful lot of interest from people, both on the highways and from the local roads.
There are reliable reports of a blue whale, so a much larger whale, being spotted in the Bay of Fundy off Long Island, pretty close to the shore. What do you make of that, given all that's been happening with the humpback whale, the minke? What's happening out there?
Well, I mean, the oceans, these animals are pretty much at the whim of where they need to be and doing what they need to do, whether it's feeding or mating or socializing. And, for blue whales in the Bay of Fundy, it isn't a very common occurrence. It has happened a few times over the years that a blue whale will come into that area. At this point, it's nothing to be concerned about in the sense of the animal seems fine. People have been keeping obviously an eye on it and having a tremendous time being able to see such a phenomenal animal. And so really, it's just a matter of just trying to keep track of them. The reality is, and this is part of the work that we're doing and why we're trying to study all these animals, both alive and dead, is to be able to figure out, are we seeing any kind of big scale changes like we did with right whales and them moving where they typically go to feed. And so that's what we're all trying to collectively do, is have that information and kind of keep an eye on things. And, right now with the humpbacks we're getting, even the minkies, and some of these sightings of, blue whales in the Bay of Fundy, the right whale that was here off Halifax, some of this is just these animals moving around. And so it's just a matter of keeping an eye on them and trying to understand the animals themselves to see if there's anything we should even be concerned about.
Tanya Wimmer, really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Coming up, voters in the UK cast their ballots, and it could result in a dramatic changing of the guard. Polls have closed in today's general election in the UK, and early exit polls are suggesting a landslide victory for the Labour Party and a crushing defeat for Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party.
I don't think the Conservatives have done a fabulous job, I have to say, over the last few years.
I voted Labour, and that would always be my choice, I think, come what may. I'd like to see a fairer society.
Voters are electing 650 MPs to sit in the British House of Commons. If the exit polls are accurate, Labour Party leader Keir Starmer is predicted to be Britain's next Prime Minister. Conservatives have struggled to reassure voters about the rising cost of living, a stagnating economy, and the national healthcare crisis. The Tories have led Britain for the past 14 years with 5 different prime ministers in 8 years. Results are expected in the early hours, Friday, local time. Hurricane Beryl is now churning towards the Caribbean, across the Caribbean, toward Mexico as a Category 3 storm. Both the Cayman Islands and Jamaica avoided a direct hit from the storm, which skirted along the southern coasts. Beryl brushed past the Caymans earlier today with winds topping 200 kilometers per hour and dropping more than 100 millimeters of rain in some areas. The storm arrived in Jamaica yesterday evening as a Category 4 hurricane. It uprooted trees, knocked down signs, and tore the roofs off homes, but there are no reports of deaths. Preparations for the storm are well underway along the east coast of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. Beryl is expected to arrive later tonight or early tomorrow. Immigration lawyers in Quebec are taking the province to court. They're upset with government policies that have led to lengthy delays in family reunifications. Alison Northcott has the story.
Newly married couple.
Joanna Rutkowski is eager to build a life with her husband in Quebec, but she's discouraged by delays in the immigration process for family reunification, which would allow him to move here from Morocco.
We feel so betrayed. I feel so betrayed by the Canadian and the Quebec government.
Family reunification is controlled by the federal government, but people immigrating to Quebec also need approval from the province, which limits the number of people it accepts each year. Last month, Quebec revealed plans to scale back even more and cut the number of applications it will process almost in half.
So you have spouse living inside or spouse living outside.
This immigration lawyer says the wait time in Quebec is already much longer than it is for those seeking to sponsor a spouse in other provinces. The wait outside Quebec is around 10 months. In Quebec, it can take up to 32 months. Quebec's Immigration Lawyers Association is taking the issue to court.
We consider that Quebec has no right to limit the number of applicants that they can accept. What we were hoping for and what we're still hoping for is for the two levels of governments to discuss, to have a conversation about this and to deal with the issue and to stop the suffering of families.
La partie réunification familiale doit être limitée.
Premier François Legault says the number of immigrants needs to be limited to ensure the province can meet the needs of all newcomers.
It's almost 2 years from now that we have applied.
Lauriane Lachapelle has been trying to help her husband immigrate from Guatemala.
Right now, families will be stuck in the middle and will have more wait, more insecurities, more anxiety.
Rutkowski is tired of waiting, so she's moving to Poland, where she also has citizenship. Her husband will join her there.
Well, if we're not wanted in Canada, let's go somewhere else.
The federal government says admissions are limited to the number of spaces set by Quebec, but it says it is working to speed up processing for Quebec applicants. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
The federal government's decision to impose a digital services tax has triggered fears of trade retaliation. Last night, Ottawa announced it has implemented a 3% tax on revenues that tech giants like Google, Amazon, and Netflix generate in Canada. Today, the finance minister said the move puts Canada in line with other G7 countries.
A number of other partners of Canada and the U.S., UK, France, Italy, to name just a few, currently have a DST in place and are not subject to U.S. trade retaliation. And, as finance minister and deputy prime minister, I just can't accept Canada indefinitely being in an inferior position to other countries who are our partners and allies.
Freeland points out that Canada delayed implementing its own tax in hopes that an international agreement could be reached. However, those efforts remain stalled. The tax is retroactive to June the 28th. The Parliamentary Budget Office estimates the tax will bring in more than $7 billion over 5 years. The U.S. tech industry is pressuring Washington to take action against the tax. Some Canadian groups also oppose the tax, saying it will push up costs for consumers. The growing use of medications known as GLP-1 drugs has the food industry taking notice. The drugs prescribed to help control diabetes can also help control obesity and have become popular weight loss aids. And that means millions of people are not buying as much snack food as they used to. The CBC's Nisha Patel has the details.
Medium cappuccino with skim milk, please.
Since she started taking Ozempic, Reagan Sather has lost her taste for treats.
My desire for food completely changed, and it also impacted how much I could eat.
That smaller appetite has changed how she shops for groceries.
Really focusing on fresh meat, fresh produce. It completely eliminated any snacking.
Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro are used to manage diabetes and obesity. In Canada, more than 1 million patients are taking these drugs. In the U.S., it may be as many as 15 million.
This is resulting in a overall decrease in food consumption, which is a change in terms of some of the diets that have come in the past.
Walmart says it's already seeing people who use weight loss drugs spend less on groceries.
If shoppers buy fewer salty snacks and sugary drinks, that could slim down profits. So big food companies are paying close attention and trying to adapt.
Coca-Cola is doubling down on high-protein milk and sparkling waters. Danone will boost investment in yogurts and nutritional drinks. Nestle plans to launch a line of portion-controlled frozen food. Dietitian Abby Langer says patients do need to watch what they eat.
What ends up happening often is that you miss out on nutrients that are really important, like protein and fiber.
But while new packaged options may be fast and convenient,
I think there's going to be a lot of criticism of those Ozempic ready meals, just because people are going to be saying, well, ultra-processed food got a lot of people where they're at now.
For people taking weight loss drugs,
it's still just a tool, and you still have to make the right decisions in order for it to work properly.
What they choose to put in their shopping cart has likely changed for good. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Extreme weather has devastated this year's season in British Columbia's fruit farms. Trees have been killed, yields have been ravaged, and livelihoods are under siege. Brady Strachan reports.
So this is table grapes. We planted these this year.
Jennifer Diol is trying to salvage the growing season. There used to be trees in this field that grew the world's largest peach until an unprecedented cold snap this winter killed them off.
It's very tough. Like, if anything, farmers are very resilient, but we're still humans at the end of the day, and this is our livelihood.
BC has the most fruit farms in Canada. In a good year, orchards are loaded with crops like cherries and nectarines. But extreme weather the last few years has hit growers hard, from a record-setting heat dome to this year's cold.
These are just going to die in the heat, too. They won't survive.
Sukhdeep Brar planted this orchard with his father 30 years ago. Golden peaches once grew in abundance. Now the branches hang lifelessly.
There's nothing left. There's nothing left here, nothing left anywhere.
Brar says he's getting calls every day from growers in the same situation. The mental strain is taking a toll.
We all deal with it. We don't talk about it in our community, but I think we need to start.
The BC government is trying to help, giving growers money to replant climate-hardy trees. But that doesn't change things this summer.
The bigger problem is getting through this year. You know, a lot of farmers have a lot of payments to make.
And these are coming from a grower that we've worked with for 10 years out of a soy use.
Only about a third of Okanagan cherries survived this year, but there are no peaches at all.
These are the Georgia peaches.
Janae Oliver had to import these ones from the U.S.
We just have to change. It's kind of that desperate times calls for desperate measures. Let's go.
Farmers are scrambling to pivot. This farm usually relies on tourists picking their own fruit. Now it's holding farm tours to bring people in.
Farming is kind of like that. You get through those bad years, and I know my grandparents have been through harder years than this.
Oliver is hoping buyers will shop local this summer. She says this year, more than ever, farmers need all the support they can get. Brady Strachan, CBC News, West Kelowna.
All right, I dare say there were a few people at the beach today. That kind of a weather day for sure.
Yeah, nice segue to our viewer picture of the day. And this one we will zoom in, show you Mavulette Beach. Beautiful spot here, Digby County. And yeah, we can see beautiful, right?
One of my favorite beaches. Bit of a drive to get to from Halifax, of course, but worth it, I must say.
Yeah.
Great spot.
Thanks to Gaynell for sharing. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. That'll be one of the spots that we'll have to watch over the next few days with some showers. Do want to share this, but meaning to get to it for the last couple of days. June, the numbers are in. Top 10 warmest almost across the province, or across the Maritimes. Cape Breton not quite getting there, but yeah, it was warmer than normal. And of course, the big headline those 2 days where we set all those records, June 19th and June 20th. You can see those numbers on my Facebook page. And on Twitter as well. You can see shower chances tomorrow, primarily in through the south and west. More widespread shower chances across the province Saturday, especially Saturday. It appears into the overnight, and Sunday, though, it is a little up in the air in terms of when the timing of those pulses of moisture that will come through. And it is a big takeaway is that it's going to be downpours that we'll be likely seeing with these showers, given the tropical moisture on the rise.
Okay, be prepared.
Yes.
A Chilean zoo is proudly showing off its latest baby white rhinoceros to visitors. Take a look at this. We love our baby pics here, don't we?
We do.
Silverio is now nearly 2 weeks old. He's the third white rhino born at the Santiago Zoo. Officials there see each birth as a success for a species facing population decline worldwide.
In the wild, they face threats from poaching and habitat loss in South Africa. According to conservation data, at least 500 white rhinos were killed for their horns last year alone.
All right, there you go. That's it for us tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.